After 1,680 seams being pressed, sewing 158,000 stitches and using 378 meters of bobbin thread, I want to tell you about what I learned when I did a sewing challenge for a month. Hey everyone, Tom, ColourBlind Quilter here, and in this video today I am sharing with you what I learned doing the August Quilting Challenge on my Instagram. Now for those of you that don't know what this is, in the month of August I challenged myself to sew for 15 minutes every single day. I hadn't been able to do any sewing for months because of work, and I decided that I just had had enough. I was missing it far too much, and so I wanted to find a way to get myself back into sewing that wasn't going to overwhelm me, that wasn't going to leave me feeling stressed as I tried to juggle a really hectic workload. And so I came up with doing the August Quilting Challenge, where every day I would do 50 minutes of something quilting related, like sewing, cutting, pressing, and then each day I would post a progress report on my Instagram account, sharing what I had done and sharing some tips and things that I had been learning along the way. Now I wanted to do this video to share some of the things that I have learned, because actually they extend far beyond just doing 50 minutes of sewing every day, and they actually might be able to help you be organised and fit more sewing into your life. The first thing is about making a plan. When I get stressed, I get overwhelmed, and as soon as I get overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, and then I actually just end up doing nothing. And this applies to things like chores, sewing, and work. So I find that I really need to be really thoroughly organised and know exactly what I need to do and when I need to do it, otherwise I just end up procrastinating. It's so simple and silly, but just having a little list that says, sew the A block, cut the B block pieces, do the accounts, clean the toilets, blah blah blah, like that kind of stuff. It puts my brain at ease, and then I can just get on with what I need to do. But I want to be sure I'm not turning quilting into work. This isn't the same kind of list that you would make when you were doing your job or doing your chores in the house. This is just a list of things that when I want to do something, but I'm in that kind of can't really be bothered mood, I can look at this and say, oh hey, I want to go and do that. I want to go and wind 15 bobbins, or I want to go and cut these pieces. And that helps with my mental health, because quilting is something that I love doing, and that's good for my mental health because it helps me to relax and de-stress and turn off and stop thinking about work. So making that plan, just having things to do, is the first thing that I really learned from this challenge, because I wouldn't have been able to do this challenge without having a plan for what I could work on. And then following on from the plan, being prepared helped. So like I said, I was having difficulty finding time to sew. If I had to go and cut loads of fabric up and it would take hours, or I would have to rake around the house looking for something, or go and buy fabric, then I wouldn't do it. There was a path to resistance there, and that stopped me from doing that quilting activity, and I would end up watching YouTube videos. So what I discovered was that when I was prepared, there was much less resistance to actually going and doing it. So for being prepared for me meant having the fabric cut up and sorted into the piles ready to sew, or having a list of all the pieces that I needed to cut and having the fabric pressed so I could just pick it up and go and cut it. Even just making sure that things were organised so I could just sit and chain piece, pick up a box, chain piece a box in the 50 minutes that I had. All that preparation just made sure that when my 15 minutes came around, I could just pick up something and go and do it, and not be like, oh, where is this? Oh, I need to cut this up. Oh, where's that jelly roll gone? Or any of that stuff that would just distract me from it. Even just having the tools that I needed around me, you know, that ruler that you use once a year that's hidden in the back of a cupboard, but you suddenly need it to do the thing that you're working on that day. Just having those things to hand and accessible, and even having bobbins wound. You know, how much time I wasted just sit all the bobbins empty, having to unthread the machine, wind the bobbin, rethread the machine, check the tension, and then off you go. And then before you know it, I had lost like 5 minutes of my 15 minutes just winding bobbins. So saying, okay, in my next 15 minutes, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to wind 10 bobbins, and I'm not going to have to think about this again for quite a while. That level of preparedness just helped me to say, I want to do quilting right now, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I just did it. So being prepared really helped, and it's easy to be prepared because you can look at your list of things that you can do and you can say, right, okay, well this thing requires these fabrics to be cut, or this thing requires these pieces to be pressed, ready for the next bit to be attached. So they go hand in hand together and make life easy for us. The next thing that came up for me during this challenge was that I absolutely love batch processing tasks when it comes to quilting. Now this isn't just chain piecing, whilst I love chain piecing, this is batch processing. So it's pressing all of the seams at the same time, or it is pinning all of the rows together at the same time, or it's chain piecing all of a block at the same time. I really find that I get to a very kind of meditative state when I do these kind of things. It's like being on a factory assembly line. You just one after the other until either the time ran out or the pile was finished. And I just really enjoy doing that. Very soothing to my brain, and it's great when my brain was stressed because I could just switch off and just press away so away. It was great. I loved it. So I really am now thinking about when I'm doing sewing or when I'm having a sewing session, how can I group together the things into bundles so that I can batch process them and do them in a way that I really enjoy and find fun. Because when I'm having fun, I want to do more of it. And then when I want to do more of it, I'll do more of it. And so that really does help me to get back into my quilting more. A lot of the time people tell you when you're trying to do something like this to schedule the same time every single day so that you get into the routine and the habit of it. But I found for myself that that didn't work because often my meetings span across different time zones because of the work that I do. And so often I'll have meetings across the week and I can't really find a consistent time where I can do something. So it tends to be, oh, there's a gap here, I can do it between those two meetings, or I have 15 minutes before dinner's ready so I can go and do some sewing, those kind of things. So it was hard to find a consistent time, but those gaps were my opportunity to do something and say, okay, this meeting finished early, I've got 10 minutes, let's go and do something. And I can do it because I know what I'm doing, it's all prepared and it's in a batch. So I can just sit down and do what I can get through in 10 minutes. So you see how this is all linking together? It really just step by step to help you be successful. And sometimes as well, I can even do some sewing whilst I'm working, which is very sneaky. But for example, during the August challenge, I was hosting training events. And during the sessions, I would often be required at the start and the end of the session. But during, like the 60, 75-minute session, I would just be sitting there listening. And I was like, well, I could be sitting sewing instead of just sitting here, trying to reply to emails and things like that. So I started to get the events running, check, make sure everything was okay, then take my laptop over to beside my sewing machine and just sit and sew and just every now and then check that everything was okay. I had a headphone in so I could hear what was going on and pay attention, but it was great because I got to do my sewing and I got to host the event. So work went hand in hand. So recognizing little opportunities like that, if it's gaps in your schedule, or you got 15 minutes before the dinner's ready, or the kids are going to be home in half an hour, so you're going to just run up to your sewing room and just do 15 quick minutes before they come in and chaos ensues. Or even like I'm in a meeting but I don't actually need to do very much just apart from listen, just sit and sew. You could do hand sewing, you could unpick seams, you could make your plan, you could put things into batches while listening to your meeting. So recognizing what the gaps are, what your schedule is, having all the prep and everything done in advance, you can then go on and just squeeze sewing in throughout your day whenever you can. One thing that did catch me though was that in my brain is like, oh, it's a quilting challenge, I have to do something quilting related. But I was kind of stupid because actually I started to realise about 4 or 5 days into it that as long as it was quilting related, then that was fine because it was still going to get me forward and it was still going to progress my goal. And then I was like, well, actually, it's my time, so who cares? I can do whatever I want in the time that I have, whether it's planning a quilt, working out fabric requirements, cutting, pressing, chain piecing, just going through fabric and saying that goes with that, that'll make a nice baby quilt, or these 5 fabrics will be great for this next project. Like, it's all quilting related, so it doesn't matter. I just went with it and did what I wanted to do and not felt that quilting time means sitting in front of the sewing machine. Even cleaning the sewing machine was worth it because that prolongs the life of my machine. It makes it run smoother, and when it runs smoother and it's working well, it means I can sew without interruption. So it's all worth it. The only thing that's not worth it though is making quilt sandwiches because that sucks. The one area that did trip me up though was longer tasks or longer activities, things that weren't very easy to squeeze into 15 minutes. That's things like cutting up big bits of fabric into strips and then subcutting those strips into pieces for chain piecing, or quilting long seams. It's easy to be chain piecing, timer goes off and you finish what you're doing, cut threads and switch your sewing machine off and go back to what you're doing. But when you're right in the middle of a seam on a long quilting line, you can't really stop. You've kind of got to go to the end, and if it's a slow stitch or you're going slow, like that might take another 10-15 minutes. So it took a bit of planning and a bit of thought about how to make that happen. You can't really prep for sewing long seams on quilt. You just do it. You can plan as much as you like, but there's no getting around it. A seam might just take 15 minutes to sew. So I started to realise when I sat down, it's like, okay, this isn't going to work in the time that I have today, but I can do this instead. And I know tonight I have half an hour and I can do that then. And so I started to rearrange things into the order that would work with the time that I had. And I always had 2 or 3 different things ready, so that if I sat down like, I don't want to press, I had another box of stuff ready that I could pick up and just sew. Or, oh hey, I've only got 1 bobbin left, I feel like just winding bobbins because I just want to do something mindlessly. And so doing it like that, it always meant I had something ready. I knew how to handle the longer tasks because I would look for other times where I would be able to fit them in. Or, at the weekends, on the Saturdays and Sundays when I was doing my 15 minutes of quilting, I would do the 15 minutes. Then I would continue sewing afterwards because it was the weekend. And so I would then be able to do the long tasks then. So that all kind of worked out. But just being aware was really important because it stopped me getting into situations where it was like, oh, I'm halfway through a seam, what do I do now? But above all, the biggest thing that I took away from this quilting challenge was just have fun with quilting. Don't make it a task, don't make it a chore, don't turn it into work. Keep it fun. It's something that I love doing, something that helps me to de-stress, the creativeness. All of that stuff is good for me, good for my mental health, good for my partner's health because I no longer take it out on him when I get stressed. It's good for my physical health because it's helping me to relax and switch off those stress and oohs that go on from work, you know. Whenever I found myself sitting at the sewing machine getting like this, I thought, no, stop, just take a breath, breathe, relax. This is my time, this is not work time. My time to have fun, my time to play with colours, fabrics, designs, whatever. Relax, chill, work will still be there in 15 minutes. And that took me probably most of the month to really get that into my head. Brain is so switched on to, oh, we need to do this. Oh, we haven't done that. Oh, so-and-so's waiting on that reply. Oh, so-and-so needs this. Oh, you haven't. And your brain goes round and round and round. And then you're sitting there, as I said before, like your shoulders are up to your ears. So the stopping, taking a nice breath, calmly focusing on what you're doing. And sometimes I would actually also find myself as well feeling calm, but when I was starting to watch, I was like pushing stuff through the sewing machine in a hurry because I was subconsciously hurrying to get back to work. So picking up on those subconscious signs of my brain going, come on, we need to go, and just trying to stop and relax that. So I actually ended up putting a piece of paper that was, you know, eye level behind my sewing machine. It was like, stop and breathe. And that really, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, okay, relax, have fun, enjoy this. This is your time. It's not work, it's my time. And part of having the fun though is all the planning and the prep and everything that I talked about before, because that sets you up for the path of least resistance. And we all have those days where it's like, oh, I really would love to go and do my hobby, but I can't be bothered because I've got to dig this out and get that and set the sewing machine up and find this ruler, and you're like, nah, can't be bothered today, I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow never comes, as they say. Doing all of that prep stuff and just being mindful about it and knowing what I wanted to do and having a plan allowed me to have more fun because I could just sit down and sew or press or cut fabric or plan or colour, and that was really important and really crucial. So yeah, you do have to do a little bit of work to have fun. But it's worth it. A couple more things though that did come up out of this that are not necessarily going into those categories, but in doing my planning and preparation, I started to realise that my sewing space is not fit for purpose. It's very disorganised, things don't really have homes, fabric is split across 4 separate rooms in my house, and you know, one day I could not find a ruler and ended up using a gigantic, like 16-inch square ruler to trim 2-inch square because I couldn't find anything. So I'm starting to realise that is just not conducive to a productive quilting environment. It's making me think about how I reorganize things, how I store things, where I put things, and what I can put in place to create a clean, clutter-free space that makes me feel creative and not like, ooh, shut the door, don't want to see that. And I'm going to journal or vlog my progress with that. The category will be sewing room realness, and it will be real. I think I stopped filming about 3 times because I was just embarrassed. I was like, no, it's fine. Not everybody's sewing rooms look like all the beautiful sets that we see on YouTube. Everybody will be understanding that, you know, this is a work in progress. So it was fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm maybe slightly still embarrassed, but not worried about it. It's led me to realise that that's something that I need to deal with to make my quilting life more fun. That was my August Quilting challenge. I sewed 150,000 stitches on my sewing machine, pressed 1,680 seams. I sewed 1,380 pieces of fabric together. I used 3.5 jumbo bobbins of thread, which is 378 meters-ish of thread. I recorded 32 videos and spent 660 minutes of sewing, and that was the most sewing I had done since March 2022, and I loved it. It was fabulous. But I just wanted to share this video, and it might seem like a long rambling video, but I just thought that maybe some of the things that I had picked up or learned might have been helpful to some people as they plan and try and fit sewing into a busy life or a stressed life. So I hope that you found something useful in this video that could maybe help you to find just a little bit of time or a way to squeeze a little bit more sewing time in. So if you found this video helpful, please do consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell to get notified when I have more videos coming out, and I have lots more great videos coming out and you won't want to miss those. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you found something from it that that you can use in your daily sewing life. If you have any tips or suggestions for people, leave some comments below about maybe ways to be more creative, maybe ways to be more organized, or things that you can do to find a little bit more time in your schedule to sew. You take care, and I will see you next time.